Good evening, everybody. I am will be showing you my presentation today on the book tasting I did for my third grade students. We have a standard in third grade about identifying genres, so I wanted to find a way that my students could do that in a more active and engaging way. So I decided to do book tasting. The summary, basically what I wanted to do was create something, a lesson, that was allowed students to open up their mind to different books, different genres, things that they may have never looked at. And the whole reason for this lesson was I wanted to get my students to love reading. And if you're a teacher, you know that very few students have just a desire to love reading without being prompted and kind of pushed in that direction. So, because we started an independent reading program in our school this year, I wanted to create something that would make that a better experience for students. So I decided to do book tasting. This all came about, I've seen the last few couple years, book tastings are a big thing on Pinterest. It looked like it was just a lot of work, and when you're having to hit so many standards, it's difficult to sit down and plan something that would have the meat of what you wanted to in it. So I had this project to do for this class, so it was easy for me to spend all my time and focus all my energy on that one thing, and I love the outcome of what happened. So we did a book tasting. We did 5 genres: historical fiction, fables, fantasy, mystery, and fairy tale. My overall instructional goal for this semester that kind of lays out all these lessons was I wanted students to believe that reading was enjoyable. I wanted them to have chances to see things and maybe look at things that they normally wouldn't pick up and look at. So my first instructional objective to that goal was I wanted to do monthly book tastings where students could explore different genres just by reading small excerpts from each, not actually reading the whole book, but basically just kind of scanning and skimming and getting an idea if it would be something that they like to do. So the first thing I did was I did a classroom transformation, and I'm sure that you all, especially around the holidays, are working on a very slim budget, a very slim teacher budget, especially if you're doing things in your classroom and ornaments and all different kind of things for your kids. Money usually is tight around the holidays. So I needed to do something that would engage my students, but also something that wouldn't cost so much money I wouldn't be able to do it more than one time. So I just kind of looked at a lot of ideas and blogs that had done it before. And I went to the Dollar Tree and purchased some flower vases, some artificial flowers, and kind of set my room up. And I'll show pictures later on in this presentation of what it would look like if you was coming into a diner. So I created that diner atmosphere. When the students came to the door, there was a sign welcoming them, telling them to seat themselves. And they came in, took a seat. I was playing bistro music from Pandora, and they sat down, and I came in and with an apron, and I was their waiter and introduced myself. So I began delivering books to their table. They kind of got an idea of what we were doing because they saw their menu that was laying in front of them. They all had their own menu. So I delivered the books to the table and told them, thank you for coming to our diner at D7. And then I did a model of what we were going to be doing that day. And since we were doing all fiction books, I did a model with a nonfiction. So it was kind of like very similar. So I didn't want to kind of lead them into something or saying things that I said. So we modeled that side of it and before we got started. The students had menus, like I said. Each student had an individual menu. The menus had 5 specials on them for the day. Each special was the genres that we would be exploring. Once they opened up their menu, it showed all 5 courses. So they're going to have a soup, an appetizer, a salad, a main dish, and dessert. So each genre would represent a course for them. So after they dove into, look at their menu, kind of look at what they're looking at, they were to write a food review, or basically a book review of that genre and what they learned during that setting. The lesson results were students loved it. They were all very engaged. They had never looked at books like this. I'd never really thought about letting them, opening it up to them and having things like that. I guess being a lover of reading myself, I know what kind of books I like, and I had to get into the mindset of being that age and not knowing what I love, because I've never actually, 90-something% of my class had never read a chapter book. So they don't really know what they're missing because they've never been exposed to it. It forced them to explore, so they had to write those reviews. So, and it was many, we were doing like, when they go in to do their review, they first look at the book cover, and then they read the first 3 to 5 pages, and then they talk about how the author or the chef hooked them. So they're forced to explore those things and make that review. It was less stress for students because I told them at the very beginning this was not anything that we would be taking an assessment on. It was basically just to make them to open their mind to other things and other stories and other genres. And it also created identifying markers. So the students sat down and they were able to look at the books and kind of see what they had in common. Sometimes the title would give it away. Sometimes they could read the back if there was a summary on the back, that would give it away. And so they started seeing those markers that they could identify the genre. And also, there wasn't enough time. So I ended up having to break this into a 2-day lesson, which I had to spread over 2 weeks because of how my plans have to fall in my classroom. So I got an idea here of materials and the setup. If you look here, this was the place setting that they had, and then this is the front of their book. I'm going to attach all the attachments in the back, or their menu. It tells what the day's specials are and all 5 of the genres. To the right, this is before the students came in, so this was the setup that they saw as they came into the room. To the left, this is once I delivered the books, I just spread them around the flowers there on the table. This actually was the mystery table. This is the mystery genre. If you'll look up here, you'll see there is a very wide range of books. I had books that range from 200 Lexile to 750 Lexile. I have a wide range of students in my class as far as reading ability. However, my goal for that was that I figured that the higher Lexile students would pick the bigger books, and the lower Lexile would pick the smaller books. But in the beginning, it seemed as if all my kids were trying to go for those small books. They knew they weren't going to have a lot of time, so they wanted to look at those that they could get more out of it, or read more of those pages to see what they were reading first. And so I kind of had to talk to them about the books and the back cover and how you could read some of those things when you see chapter books. And you just see an idea of all the different genres that was there. The evaluation results, my second group will not finish their evaluation until tomorrow. So I will update my video to show my results and data. We used a Google form assessment, and basically all I wanted to do was offer them a photo, the cover of a book, then maybe the summary if there was one, and then I listed the genres and wanted to see if after we did this, we dove into all these genres, if they could look at a book or find clues that would tell them what the genre of the book was. And so if you'll look at my genre characteristics, I'd used a Google form. This is the test for my second group. They have to put their name, and then you'll just notice that I had different genres. I did the front of this one. They had to choose what genre they thought it was. Some of them wouldn't. This is actually a book that we will read in 3rd grade. So this gave an idea of kind of, they read the book cover or look at the book cover and make some assumptions of what the book might be about. And so they just choose the correct chose the correct genre, and then they would submit the test. And the last thing I have is changes I would make. I would do more time. My kids really love this, and actually there's 2 other reading teachers in my grade that loved the results that they're also going to do it with their students. I would have had more time, and maybe I would have done 1 genre per day and broke up my tables based on Lexile, so that all the kids got to look at all the books from the lower Lexile to the highest Lexile. Another change that I would make is that I would do a pre-assessment sort to see how much they recognize from the beginning to the end. I will link my presentation to YouTube and have all the links to the materials I used in the notes. Thank you.